It was the most amazing culture shock I had ever experienced. I'm like, I'm in the same country. This is crazy. But what that meant was that I had the opportunity to be exactly who I was because I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any family around. I had no expectations. And it was really the no expectations that set me free. And so I had already been, been dressing in, in women's clothing since I was mid-teenager anyway, probably younger. But then through my undergraduate and as a graduate student, like I turned it into, I don't want to call it a personality. I mean, but it was a thing for me when, like, on weekends, that was how I went out. People knew me as Selena. They didn't know me as my old name or Amethysta, but so that was graduate school. But it showed me that this was so right. This is who I am. And then obviously I finished a PhD in chemistry and went back to Los Angeles. In 2000, I met my now wife, and it was April 20th, 2000 was our first date. And on our very first date, we were exchanging stories. What's wrong with you? Oh, this is wrong with me. What's wrong with you? And I said, oh, well, I am part woman and part man. And she goes, oh, I'd like to see that someday. And I went, no, you probably don't. And then we moved on. But she knew from our first date that I am transgender. And it came up, over the course of, from 2020, from 2000 until 2022, 2021, I guess. And when we finally had another conversation, but, I just struggled along. I tried to do what I could, trying to live the American dream, which I don't think is much of a dream because it's really continue to consume. And as you consume, try to get more salary, try to get more possessions. And it's a cycle into hell. It's terrible. Anyway, finally in 2021, I had a pretty major, I don't want to call it a mental breakdown, but I had a pretty major sort of breakdown. And my wife said, I think it's time for you to explore your gender. And I knew what that meant. That meant transition. And I couldn't do that because at the time, our son would have been 10 years old. And when I found out we were having a boy, because I thought if we had a girl, it'd be great. I could live out all my feminine fantasies through her, dress her up in cute little clothes, put ribbons in her hair. We'll paint each other's fingernails, whatever. But when I found out we were having a boy, I was very upset. And I resented our son for a while, really, because I knew, well, what I believed inside was that boys need fathers and fathers are men. Fathers are not who I am. And so that meant I had to bury it as deeply as I could. So that hurt and hurt and hurt for a decade. And finally I had this big breakdown and my wife said, well, look into this. But I couldn't do it. I just wouldn't have been allowed to do it. And that's the better way to say it. And then finally in May of 2022, I think it was April or May, I had a conversation with my wife and I said, listen, I can't stop thinking about this. I just feel like I've got to do it. And she said, well, then go do it. Go transition. And I said, gosh, really? You would let me do that? And she said, no. What you need to do is allow yourself to do it. And so it's about 2 months later, I put on my first estrogen patch. Well, there are a lot of beautiful things about this. I mean, I'm looking at your face. I'm glad that that's touching. Because let
I
me
don't
tell
know
you
why,
how
but
my
I feel
son found.
emotional. Oh my God. Okay.
It's, it was so, like I said, she'd known for 22 years. She'd known. And well, 21, I guess, at the time, but she'd known the whole time. And finally it was just like, go do this. This is, go be you. Can I tell you this story of how my son found out?
Please.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So it was sometime in August. I don't know. I put on my first estrogen patch, July 7th, 2022. It was an important day for me.
Welcome to your Wordless Podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Nieras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now let's dive in. Hey, I'd like to say thank you to the sponsor of our episode today, Fish Audio. Now, if you're a podcaster, voiceover artist, or content creator looking for hyper-realistic AI-generated voices, you need to check out Fish Audio. Ranked among the top 2 most realistic voice generators in 13 languages, Fish Audio lets you create high-quality voiceovers with just a few clicks. It's open source friendly, super fast, and best of all, affordable with the lowest prices in the market. Try it today for free at fish.audio and start creating with AI-powered voices today. Now, let's get back to the video you're watching. Yes. So, Emmy, first up, right off the bat, what was it like growing up as Amethysta Herrick, or prior to that?
What was it? So growing up, I'll say this much. By the time I was 4 years old, so I have 3 sisters. Let me start off with that. And by the time I was 4 years old, I was well aware that people treated me differently than they treated my sisters. And I didn't understand that. I mean, at 4 years old, it wasn't clear to me what the difference could be. So it kept on getting worse though. By about 8 years old, when my parents divorced, it was clear that people saw me differently than I saw myself. And, my mother wanted to give me things that were blue, right? Not pink. I didn't get the toys that I would have wanted to play with. And, it was clear that I was born in a way that wasn't the way I felt. And so I would say it was probably 12 years old. So this is early 1980s. I heard a joke, and I wish I knew where the joke came from. I kind of want to say it was like Johnny Carson or something. That's how old this joke is. But I can't remember where I heard it. But somebody said something about a Swedish vacation, with the point being that maybe Sweden had just done some gender affirming surgery. Some big new process. I don't know, procedure. I don't really know, but I heard that and I was like, oh, all I have to do is go to Sweden, and then all my problems will be solved. And I thought, shouldn't be hard. Right, I'm 12. How far? You're in Sweden? Can't be that far. So that was really the experience growing up. It's a really deep down sense of just being wrong. And the thing is, and I bring this up about much of the queer community, we're not told that we're wrong because of the actions that we do. We're told that we're wrong because of the kind of person we are. And that it hurts really deep down. It becomes a chronic trauma that you don't escape. You can't escape unless you learn to reject all of the social norms that other people want to put on you. I told you it was 12 when I decided I was going to transition gender. I didn't do it until I was 52. So I did end up waiting 40 years, but now that kid who was hurting so badly at 12 is finally living the life that she should have been. So yeah, that's what it's like growing up transgender. It's really awful. I mean, I won't mince words. It's terrible because people don't see you. They see who they want to see. Yeah.
And if you don't fit in their narrative, you're different and you're outcasted, right? I mean, at least in Malaysia, I mean, in Asian countries, it's still frowned upon. But I had a guest come on to my show, and he is pansexual, so very gender fluid. And I'm also learning along the way, right? I mean, it's
Hmm.
been just a couple of years back, then it's really like out there. And I don't know why, but most of my friends who are gay are actually like, they all flock to me. And I remember asking a friend, I'm like, because I used to be married to a guy, uh but I don't know. It's also stemming from my own self-worth and the fact that that there was a lot of other things that happened before that, but there were red flags about this guy and whatnot. And then I was like,
Mm.
I felt in hindsight, 2020 hindsight, I felt then that I was operating in my masculine, and he was the opposite. Yeah, so he felt emasculated, And when we got divorced, I mean, before that, I was different. And during the marriage for 2 years, I turned somebody, I guess, because my expectations weren't met when I see
Mm.
him through his actions. And so that led to us falling apart and we decided to separate ways. And then I sat with myself for so long, at least few years, and my friend asked him, am I too masculine? Is this why that I got divorced in the first place? He said, that's that's not why, Nick. I think the fact that why we are all friends with you is because you enable us. You're an enabler. You enable us to shine in our
Hmm.
own ways, and that's you. But you and your husband, that's a whole different thing. There were dynamic perhaps would wasn't right, and then it was kind of rushed anyway.
Yeah.
Again, if people were to ask me, would you did you regret? I wouldn't be have the person I am today if it wasn't for all those experiences, right?
Right. Right. But if you, I will, how do I want to put this? What you just described to me is that you see people, and that's important. Because, like, as a manager, that was, I mean, I spent 25 years in technology, and so I was a manager for about a decade, a little more than a decade, like 16 years. So that's a bit more, but seeing people and meeting with them where they are is super important. I mean, that's the basis of a real relationship, is to see somebody. And that's, when, I'll just say this, when people in the queer community, you'd mentioned gay people or gay men, when people in the queer community find somebody like that, somebody who sees us, oh my gosh, yeah, you better believe we're going to hold on to you. We're going to stick close to you. It's important to us. Nobody else sees us. Nobody sees us, and it's a huge thing. So I believe it. I believe you.
Thank you.
That's
Like
why
I
people flock to you.
Yes, and going through this story with you, I actually there's a friend that I had a we had a bit of a we hit a bit of a yes some tough spot. It's a gay friend, and last year we got into an argument, and I decided to not talk to him anymore. And
Yeah.
right now talking to you, I mean, because he did cross some boundaries with my values, and yeah, and so I don't know, perhaps, because I always believe these are signs from the universe. Nothing is coincidental. Don't look at the
Yeah.
message. Don't look at the messenger, but rather look at the message. So
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
still, I still have one unleft, one email not replied yet from him. So perhaps after this, I'll think about it.
It's a thought. I wouldn't tell you who your friends ought to be. I'm not going to try to tell you that, but I will say it is precious, and it doesn't matter if you're queer or not. When somebody sees you as who you are, it's very powerful. Because, I mean, most of the people I managed were not, you know, anywhere in the LGBTQ. But if I was able to enable them, if I was able to allow them to do their best work, it's very powerful. Anyway, I mean, I could go on this for a long time, and I feel like I keep saying the same thing. So, but I believe it. I believe it.
Okay, I'll think about it for sure. So, okay, between in that 40 years, so what actually happened? Can you give us a summary?
All right. I think I was about 10 years old. Let me this is a stepping back a couple of years, but I think it was about 10 years old that somebody gave me a book about genetics. And something like that, maybe 10 years old. And it wasn't like a whole book. It wasn't like a college textbook, but somebody gave me some pamphlets kind of thing about genetics. And I thought, "Oh, well, if I can't fly to Sweden, I could just do genetics, right? This will fix me." I always thought that I needed to be fixed. And I think it's very common for the queer community. When you're told the person you are is wrong, we go, "Oh, how can I fix that? What can I do to fix it?" So anyway, I learned about genetics. I was really into biology, specifically molecular biology. And then I went to university where that was what I studied, molecular biology, focus on genetics. At some point, I realized genetics was not going to fix me, because it's not genetics that was different about me. And so I switched over to chemistry. I stayed in biochemistry for a while, and I think it was in my very last year in college. I said, okay, I'm just going to do chemistry. They called it straight chemistry. I mean, I wasn't sure if there was a gay chemistry. I don't, but so you could do, organic chemistry, biochemistry, straight
It's
chemistry.
straight
And I'm,
chemistry.
okay.
Okay.
And by then I was well aware that I'm pansexual. So it was sort of like, gosh, it's kind of a misnomer, isn't it? I mean, I don't think I was telling anybody, but it was like, all right, I didn't know my major was going to be such a mark on my identity. So I finished up an undergraduate degree in chemistry, and then I went to graduate school. And in graduate school, so grew up in Southern California, and so that was Los Angeles, and I went to San Diego for my undergraduate work. So these are two of the biggest cities in the United States. And then I go all the way across the country to Georgia, a small town in the South. And it was the most amazing, what's the word for that? Culture shock. That was it. It was the most amazing culture shock I had ever experienced. I'm like, I'm in the same country. This is crazy. But what that meant was that I had the opportunity to be exactly who I was, because I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any family around. I had no expectations. And it was really the no expectations that set me free. And so I had already been dressing in women's clothing since I was mid-teenager anyway, probably younger. But then through my undergraduate and as a graduate student, like I turned it into, I don't want to call it a personality. I mean, it was a thing for me when, like, on weekends, that was how I went out. People knew me as Selena. They didn't know me as my old name or Amethysta, but so that was graduate school. But it showed me that this was so right. This is who I am. And then obviously I finished a PhD in chemistry and went back to Los Angeles. In 2000, I met my now wife, and it was April 20th, 2000 was our first date. And on our very first date, we were exchanging stories. What's wrong with you? Oh, this is wrong with me. What's wrong with you? And I said, oh, well, I am part woman and part man. And she goes, oh, I'd like to see that someday. And I went, no, you probably don't. And then we moved on. But she knew from our first date that I am transgender. And it came up, over the course of, from 2020, from 2000 until 2022, 2021, I guess, when we finally had another conversation. But you know, I just struggled along. I tried to do what I could, um, trying to live the American dream, which I don't think is much of a dream, because it's really continue to consume, and as you consume, try to get more salary, try to get more possessions, and it's a cycle. It's a cycle into hell. It's terrible. Anyway, finally in 2021, um, I had a pretty major, I don't want to call it a mental breakdown, but I had a pretty major sort of breakdown. And my wife said, I think it's time for you to explore your gender. And I knew what that meant. That meant transition. And I couldn't do that because at the time, our son would have been 10 years old. And when I found out we were having a boy, because I thought if we had a girl, it'd be great. I could live out all my feminine fantasies through her, dress her up in cute little clothes, put ribbons in her hair, we'll paint each other's fingernails, whatever. But when I found out we were having a boy, I was very, I was very upset. And I resented our son for a while, really, because I knew, well, what I believed inside was that boys need fathers and fathers are men. Fathers are not who I am. And so that meant I had to bury it as deeply as I could. So, so that hurt and hurt and hurt for a decade. And finally I had this big breakdown and my wife said, well, look into this. But I couldn't do it. I just wouldn't have been allowed to do it. And that's the better way to say it. And then finally in May of 2022, I think it was April or May, I had a conversation with my wife and I said, listen, I can't stop thinking about this. I just feel like I've got to do it. And she said, well, then go do it. Go transition. And I said, gosh, really? You would let me do that? And she said, no, no. What you need to do is allow yourself to do it. And so It's about 2 months later, I put on my first estrogen patch. Oh, there are a lot of beautiful things about this. I mean, I'm looking at your face. I'm glad that that's touching. 'Cause let
I
me
don't
tell
know
you
why,
how my
but I feel
son found
emotional. Oh my god. Okay.
it's, it was so like I said, she'd known for 22 years. She'd known well, 21, I guess, at the time, but she'd known the whole time. And finally was just like, go do this. This is, go be you. Can I tell you this story of how my son found out?
Please.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So it was sometime in August. I don't know. I put on my first estrogen patch July 7th, 2022. It was an important day for me. So it's been just over 3 years now since I started. So some weeks in, I'm holding on to a patch. So it was summertime. Our son's home from school, and I'm putting on a patch. And my son comes walking into the room, goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I look at the patch and I look back up at them and I go, "Sit down." Kid sits down. And I said, "So you know how mom is?" And our son goes, "Yeah, like a girl?" And I go, "Yeah, yeah, like a girl. Um, I'm gonna do what I can to turn into a girl." And my son looks down for a moment and goes, "I am really glad that you found what's gonna make you happy." Kid you not. Kid was 10 years old.
Kid
11 years
smart.
old, just past.
Kid
I
saw
could not
through.
I couldn't believe it. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, "Is this for real?" Because I was not transitioning for our son's sake. And it was ridiculous. I mean, then my kid goes, "Are you gonna get boobs?" And I go, "I hope so."
Eventually.
And then he goes, "Are you still gonna be a boy?" And I said, "Do you mean like am I gonna get surgery in this area?" Eyes get really wide and I go, "I don't know. I don't know yet. It's very early on. I have no idea." Anyway, he looks back down and goes, "Yeah, I am so glad you found what's gonna make you happy." And then goes, "I know. I'm gonna make you that dress. I will make the dress, and then we can have the little belt. You can hang your weapons on it, and it'll be a great thing." And goes running out of the room. And I'm like, "What the dress and the weapons?" And I'm like, "Where did that come?" And there's a story behind that that ties into my name, but that was it. That was my whole coming out. My kid's just like, "Okay, you're gonna be a girl, fine." But in so doing, like I went from sort of the crabby old man who didn't want to hang out with a kid, didn't want to hang out with our son, to like an actual parent. You know, at this point, our son's much better off because now they have two parents. They're both women, but two parents who clearly love them, and I don't know. They're better off. I'm better off. I don't know if my wife's better off. I'll have to ask her.
So it's
But
been,
yeah, that's it.
so you've transitioned in 2020,
2022. Yeah, it's been
2022.
three
So it's
years,
been
just
three
over three
years,
years.
just over three
Yeah.
years. It's so amazing that I think your son saw that you were not fully yourself and you tried to
Yeah.
avoid the very things that make you who you are. And in doing so, you avoided the interaction with him because of the fear that some things might come off as offensive to him or
Yeah.
that's not out
Yeah.
of the norm.
Yeah. No, it was ridiculous. Go ahead. You had a thought.
Yeah. What would you say to people who are still holding back at this point, but they know that it is time to come out?
It's a difficult question. This is what so much of my work is based around. And, even the professional work that I do I'm calling it hypnotherapy driven identity guidance.
I'm
So, I mean, I'm trying, I know. I know I saw that. I was like, let's talk about hypnosis.
Yeah.
But I think there's, I think it's a weird thing. Here's sorry, let me get back to your question because your question was what would I tell somebody? If I could, I would say come out now. Go be you cuz it is our purpose as humans to live as who we are. It's our purpose. We can't hold this back. We have identities and our identities must come out. I'm much happier. Everybody I knew who is transition gender, who has taken some sort of steps, no matter how small, to express themselves more fully, I should say. And it doesn't have to be gender transition. It could be, I'm going to get a different job. I'm going to get a different haircut. I'm going to dye my hair. I'm going to put on lipstick. I don't even
And
care.
travel.
When you,
I'm gonna travel
yes,
for half a year and just
right.
find myself.
Yeah. When you do that, you're so much happier. There's a ton of clinical, work around this about how, we feel better when we express ourselves. So I would love to say, come out now and go do everything that you want to do, and if you need the help, reach out to me and I will help. That being said, the world is not really a great place for the queer community right now. We're even eating each other, right? I mean, I get a lot of gay men who come to my YouTube channel and they're just like, "You're making this worse for all of us. I wish you'd go away. I wish you'd, unalive yourself." And it's like, wow,
But
we're we're on the
why?
same team.
Why would they say that?
I mean, it's a good question. I wish I could answer it well. The one person who gave me enough of a description said, "You're muddying the waters. We had gotten marriage equality and you had to come in and muddy the waters with all this gender stuff. And now they're looking at taking away marriage equality." And the thing is, it didn't take me talking about gender for conservatives still to hate gay people and lesbians, bisexuals, didn't take me. So, but we're fighting even among ourselves. So it's not a good time to come out. And at the same time, it is the perfect time to come out because the more representation there is, the more I think the people in power now have to hear something like it was 9.3% of Americans are are living openly in a queer identity, living openly. Okay. 10%, just about 10%. That means that the number who identify as queer is probably closer to what we see in Generation Z, which is about 25% identify as one of the letters in the acronym. And I mean, 25%, 1 in 4 people would identify as one of these things. So it is a great time to come out because if we had 1 in 4 people who voted according to their identity and showed their family, this is who I am, I think we would change. I think we would change the world. So I didn't give you a good answer. I didn't give you a single answer.
You gave me the perfect answer.
All
I love
right.
listening to it.
Thank you.
Amy, thank you so much for being so transparent. I'm so grateful. My heart just overflowing with joy that I can even have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Talk to us about your transition experience. What did you do? Where did you go to? And what did you find out the stark differences between where you're from and where you did your procedures?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Oh, okay. Sure.
Are you stuck in a job that you don't love, feeling like you're meant for more? It is not in your head, it is in your soul. I am Nick Nieras and I help high achievers like you break free from burnout, rewire self-doubt, and build a life aligned with purpose through coaching, hypnotherapy, and soul activation. Because let's face it, real wealth isn't just about money, it is about a aligned and happy heart, mind, and soul. Now, remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Let's transform your life together. Visit www.thenicknierasholisticlifestyle.com to begin.
So an interesting thing. So most transgender women, when they start hormone therapy, it's generally more aggressive than mine was. I took to estrogen exceptionally well. You're looking at me now, and you can see that I have
Yes.
significant chest here. Most of this is mine. I I
I
did
love the way
I had a
we're trying to be very diplomatic about things. There's significant chest.
I mean it's
I see it.
I
I
got
see
some
them. I
I got
see
some
them.
cans. Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard they're hard to miss at this point. But so most of that is mine.
And
I
your
did have a
physique, you're
little bit.
probably tall, right? How tall are you?
No. No, gosh, I don't know
Uh,
how it is in centimeters. I'm 5'9". I'm actually not that
that's
tall. I
quite
I
tall. Kind of
shrank
tall.
though.
Because
Yeah,
of the hormone?
well, just for Southeast Asian, yes.
Yes, yes.
That
For
is
Southeast
pretty
Asians,
tall.
yes. But for
For
Westerners,
Western for
Yeah.
Yeah, for Western, white assigned male at birth person, 5'9's pretty short. But I actually I lost an inch when I started taking in estrogen. I think
Mm.
what happened, because it is typical when humans assigned female at birth start, start going through puberty, their hips widen, right?
Widens, yeah.
And I suspect what happened is that some of that kind of thing went on. Because now not only do I have, some big boobs here, I have a big, huge butt. It is such a huge
Wow,
butt.
you are racking the message.
Really? Yes. I would not have thought I'd end up with an hourglass figure, but here we are. The thing is, right? Oh no, I love it. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
of course. I love it for
There
you.
are yeah. I have this wonderful corset, this beautiful black silk corset. Then when I put it on, there's a certain dress I put on. I'm like, I am just the bomb. I am
Yes.
such the bomb. Look at me.
Oh my god, it would be so nice to go out with you and your wife and just
I think we'd have a good time. Yeah.
I
I
think so
think
too.
it'd be great. So the thing is, though, so I started at 52. Usually at 52, you don't get the kind of response that I did. But it turns out, this is a guess now, just based on how quickly I took it to estrogen and various other things, how quickly testosterone fell off. It's guessed, my clinic guesses that I have a partial androgen insensitivity syndrome. So this is it's considered an intersex characteristic. But the point is that even though I made a ton of testosterone, it was really crazy. When we first did the test, the clinic's like, "Holy cow, you got a really high testosterone level." And I was like, "I do? Gosh, I've never been able to grow a beard. I don't really have body hair. I mean, what the hell?" But then later on, when it dropped so quickly, the clinic was like, "Wow, maybe what you have is an androgen insensitivity syndrome." So anyway, I made a bunch of testosterone, but I didn't use it, or I didn't use it efficiently, however it might be. One of the two. It doesn't make a difference to me.
I
But
need to. Oh my
so
god.
so that was great. So I feminized really quickly, and I feminized pretty completely. And that was really quick. Within 6 months, I had transitioned socially, which meant changing my name, whatever else goes along with that, social security card, all the things. My passport, I got a new birth certificate, amended my birth certificate. So I did that within about, well, 9 months. It was about 9 months. And then I thought, what about surgery? And I hadn't really wanted surgery. I didn't, or at least I didn't think I wanted surgery. And it was about summer of 2023 that this may be a little raw here. Feel free to edit it out if you want. But I remember I was lying in bed with my wife is the thing. And I remember I stood up or I did something, but where it was, it was like summer. So it was warm and maybe we were going to sleep. I don't know. We were nude. There you go. But I remember I looked down and went, "Oh, I wish I had one of those." And then I went, "Oh my gosh, I can get one of those." And it didn't even strike me that I had wanted it. I didn't think I did. So I tried to get it done in the United States. Insurance is a nightmare. The healthcare here in the United States, especially for transgender people, is awful. Absolutely. And that was 2023. It's worse now. 2 years late, just 2 years later, it's even far worse. So I started looking at Thailand. I had a psychologist. And he told me at some point, he says, "Oh my gosh, I studied with Katoi people in Thailand. You should go there for surgery." And I went, I don't think I want to go to some weird place for surgery. Like, that's not for medical stuff. You wouldn't do that. And he's like, "No, seriously, it's good there. Believe me." So I started looking at it because insurance just went, it was really bad. I'm just going to leave it at that. But when I started looking at Thailand, I was like, they have an 800-year written history of Katoi culture. 800 years, 850 years at this point, I think. Many of the techniques were developed in Thailand. Many Western surgeons go to Thailand to get training in these techniques. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" So we sort of took the plunge, went to Thailand, and it was the most phenomenal experience. I cannot.
Was that your first time to Southeast Asia?
Yes,
Have you
it was the first time out of North America, for what it's worth.
Whoa! And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
for that big change of an identity. Wow,
yeah, yeah. It
kudos.
was also the it was also the first time I'd gotten surgery,
Oh,
so it was a lot of firsts.
a lot of
Yeah,
congratulations to you.
thank you. As far as being tall, we were in Bangkok when we were in Thailand because I went. Can I say the name of the hospital? Is it
Yeah,
okay?
yes,
Okay,
please.
okay. So we
I
went
think
to
the
Yanhi
people here
International
are
Hospital.
waiting. What's the name of
Good,
the
good.
hospital?
So it was called Yanhi International Hospital. It's in Bangkok. As it turns out, because I just started doing vlogs. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Just like every day, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to Thailand. Here's what I'm doing today." And so I went through, the what it took to get to Thailand in terms of the passport. Gosh, I can't think of everything else, but the passports and buying the tickets and everything, talking to the hospital and everything. And then once I got there, I mean, think I think I did a video within a few hours of waking up. And I'm like, "Hey folks, I just got out of surgery and stuff." But, I wanted to make as much of a record as I could. So Yanhi was amazing. Because I did that, the hospital ended up saying, "You're really great at publicity. Do you want do you want to talk to people about surgery?" So now that's part of what I do. I'm a representative for Yanhi International. And they're
My
just
God.
amazing. Yeah, I know. See? So when you were mentioning earlier about procedures, I was like, let me see if I'll have to work that in there somehow. So, but it was such a great experience. We went on the MRT. This is like the train in
Yes.
Bangkok. And there's like a manga trope or like an anime trope where you always have like a schoolboy on the train and he always ends up like sandwiched between two very, voluptuous women, right? This is a sort of a trope. Well, I had my moment like that at one point. We're on the train and I think it was about 5:30 in the evening, something like that. But I get on the train and there's a stunning number of people. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like it was like this is a whole lot of people." And I get a little bit, nervous in these sorts of situations. But I stand like about a head taller than everybody. I stand like a good 10 centimeters taller than everybody. And there was so there was one point I'm in the train and I had this. No, you can't see this if you're listening, but I had this elderly man's like head. Pretty. I mean, he may as well have just leaned down, taken a rest on the pillows. Is the point? And we're kind of it's a train, right? It's moving, so I'm sort of like, "Ooh,
Yes.
yes, having it's a good time." Having a good time? Cool. Yeah, it's good. So yes, I was taller than everybody. Yes, I was taller than everybody. They treated me so well. It was so amazing. I think they saw, white woman with purple hair and big cans, and they really rolled out the red carpet for me. It was amazing. Just a quick aside, when the current administration, came into power here in the United States, very quickly they enacted several executive orders. These aren't laws, but they're executive orders that target the transgender community in particular. And I thought, all right, time to leave. Where are we going to go? And immediately, both my wife and I went, Thailand. Let's
Thailand.
go. Obviously, we didn't go, but we have still considered it. We've still considered just moving there because I think it would be a good life. And our kid, by the way, our
It
son's
would
like,
be.
"Oh yeah, totally. Let's go back." So yeah, I think it
Did
would be
he love
great.
did he love Thailand, your son?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And you
I
guys
mean,
can live like kings in Southeast Asia. I mean, and the currency is cheaper.
it is
Our
it is less expensive, yes. But what we'd want to do, I mean, particularly for Thailand, and I don't exactly want to get into a lot of like passport stuff, but they want you to, if you hire Thai natives, that's a good way to get, I don't know what they call it, maybe citizenship, but like a visa that lets you stay there permanently. So a permanent visa type
right,
thing.
right.
I don't think that's citizenship, but I don't know anything about this. I told you I was a chemist. Who knows what the rest of that is? But we're like, ooh, start a business. We could
Yeah.
start a business and hire people.
Yes.
And
And
that's
you're
what
in
we would
tech,
want to do.
right?
We would want to, not anymore.
Not
I mean,
anymore.
now I've been
You
writing and
transition out of
podcasting,
tech
but
as well.
I did, yeah. My gosh, yeah, I didn't want to be, we
No.
could talk about tech, but it was awful because the whole time I
Yeah.
was in tech, I
We're
mean,
just
I
surviving.
am who I am. Yeah, I am who I am. And it was so difficult because I was in the room with tons of alpha male tech bro type white men who were just like, what is wrong with you? How come you're not playing this game very well? And of course I didn't play the game very well because I'm just
Because
not an
yeah.
alpha male tech bro type person. So anyway, so yeah, I was like, we can go there, we can make a business, but we thought we'd buy an apartment building or something, see if we could get an apartment building. Because we want to give back. Thailand gave us so much over the course of a month with the experiences, with just how nice everybody was. I mean, literally, we want to give back. And so, even if we don't move this year, which it looks like we're not,
I'll be
it's
waiting.
likely the plan is that, yeah,
I'll
no,
be waiting.
it's likely the plan is we'll go sometime soon. Our kid's just going into high school. So I don't know, might be 4 years, but we'll keep in touch.
But yes, for sure. I mean, okay. I want to talk about the identity with the work because for
Yes.
the longest time, I've always been this kid growing up that I wanted to do the extreme stuff. So I wanted to do piloting. I wanted to be a cardiologist. But yeah, wow, right? And then I tried zooming in as to why I wanted to do all these things. It's because I think I'm adventurous like that, or I want to achieve the highest potential that I could for myself. That I want to
Hmm.
prove it to myself that I could, attain those. Because piloting requires a big sum of money of investment. And my dad was like, "No, we don't have that kind of money, Nick. So you got to do something that's viable." So I chose accounting, and everybody needs accounting,
Okay.
and I could get a job, right? And but then the
Yeah.
very thinking of that you're just there to get a job is the main thing that was wrong from the first place. But I didn't know it better. I didn't know anything better because all I needed to do was to get money and to, go up the ranks, go up the ladder because that's the only way, at least I thought, to be successful and to feel happy. I'll be
Right.
happy then. I'll be fulfilled then once I tick all of the boxes, by the house, by the cars and
Yeah.
whatnot. And boy, I was wrong. So I planned my life out until 30 at least. And I said, okay, because 30 is the magical number that everything will fall into place. I'll settle down. I'll
Yes.
have my kids, and I'll climb up the ladder and just be the CEO and blah 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 blah. Blah. And
Right.
before 30, so I did achieve the at least the milestones in terms of my career, but I also hit my burnout. So I got married and I got divorced, and I
Yeah.
had my burnout. Yes, had my burnout all before 30. That's when I started my identity crisis happened after the divorce. Actually, that's the first thing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I thought that I was so good in studying. I think the love department isn't for me because I remember devoting myself to this person, but then it did not got reciprocated in the way that I hope it would be. So let me just focus on my work.
Yeah.
Then COVID happened. COVID too brought me down to my knees. And that's when I started guessing, who am I? What is my purpose here on earth? Because I really, really latch on to the fact that if I achieve all these things and if I put 2000% on the things that would, I need to do, not love to do, I'll be set for life. And I was wrong.
Right.
So I had to
Yeah.
unlearn a lot of things about myself, about the beliefs that I had, and relearn. And
Yeah.
5 years in, still learning, but I've gotten way better at really embracing these parts of myself that I love connecting with people.
Yeah.
And I've switched my career entirely. I'm happier.
I hear that. Yeah.
I will admit that I do miss the paycheck because you're still building, right? You miss the paycheck,
Yes.
Amy. But I don't think I would trade that with what it is that I'm doing right now ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear that story. I mean, it was funny I didn't jump in, but you had said you figured if you gave your best effort, 2000%, I think you said, if you gave your best effort, then people are going to see it. And the way that I thought of it was they're going to recognize it and they're going to reward me. Turns out that's shit. That's not, oops, sorry. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
bad,
no,
but turns
please.
out that's untrue.
It is. It's true.
It's just untrue. If you give all your effort, typically what happens is they ask you for more. That's the
Yes.
worst part. They'll
Yes.
ask you for more. And yeah, it's a recipe for burnout. That's and I think all of that idea that consumption, that working longer hours so that you can get more money, so that you can buy more things, that cycle has never been true. It wasn't true when there were people in India writing the Vedas saying, hey, if you do this, it's untrue. And this has been thousands of years and was untrue then, it's untrue now. But we don't believe it. I think we're like, no, it'll be true for me, right? And no, it won't. So I retired. So when I first started transition, so this was in July, within about, I think I'd say maybe 2 weeks, I started having these really major cognitive changes. Also, in about 2 weeks, I started breast development, just as a quick aside. But usually that's 6 to 9 months. That was another thing that made my clinic go,
It's
wait,
like
what?
ready. I'm ready. Finally, you're letting
Yes.
us
My body
loose.
was going, listen, right.
Yeah.
My body was just like, look, go do this, okay? But about 2 weeks in, I started having these major cognitive changes. The major thing was that I started feeling emotions. And I know maybe that sounds ridiculous, but
No.
I was feeling, and I didn't understand what that was. I mean, I was like, "What the hell is going on? I can't." I'm feeling joy, and I'm feeling sadness, and I'm feeling love, really feeling love for the first time. I was 52. Like, how does that how do you go through a whole life without feeling? But when you have to mask yourself, that's what happens. I was really good at hiding all of those things. So, as a result, the point was going to be after 2 weeks, when I had these significant cognitive changes, I was like, I'm going to need to do some research on myself. I wasn't really sure what I was going to research, but I said, I'm going to do some research on myself. And, so I started writing. And in November of 2022, I decided, okay, I'm going to retire from technology. I called it retiring from technology. I'm not retired, left
From
technology and
technology.
became a full-time content creator. And pretty quickly, so I'm writing about myself. I'm like, I got to figure myself out. I went back to, picked up all the genetic stuff that I'd, partly forgotten, went back and looked at philosophy books that I hadn't visited in decades. And I realized, well, pretty quickly, I realized I'm not talking about the transgender experience. I'm talking about the queer experience. Yeah, it's the queer experience. And then I went maybe another month or two and I went, no, no, that's too small too. I'm not talking about the transgender experience. I'm not talking about the queer experience. I'm just talking about being a human. And so I was thinking about identity. I was thinking about gender. And I think each of us has to go through this. You just told me a story of you finding your identity. You told me a story also about some gender expression in your marriage. I mean, you did the same things that I've been doing for the past few years because it's totally normal. This is what humans do all our lives. So, I mean, once all this sort of thunked home into my head, and, it's hard to believe I could be in my fees just coming to these realizations. But as I told them to other people, where I was like, yeah, listen, you have identity and you have to discover it and you have to develop it. Many times I had sort of this like a light going off, I get like a light bulb moment sort of thing. And I could see it in their eyes. And one of the things I've always loved about teaching, because I've taught at the university level, for, I don't know, on the order of 5 or 6 years, 7 years, something like that. One of the things I always loved about teaching was when that light goes off. and I'm teaching chemistry, right? So it's not even that interesting. But you get when you finally get through and somebody goes, "Oh," that moment when they do that, when they go, "Oh my gosh, oh, I got it, I got it." I saw that over and over when I was just telling people, "You know who you are. I can't tell you who you are. Society can't tell you who you are. Your priest's not going to tell you. You know this." People would go, "I don't think that's, this miraculous moment. I mean, so it became my work. This is ultimately now what I do. I live for those moments when somebody goes, wait a minute, I'm allowed to tell you who I am?" It's crazy that we would think that we can't, but here we are. This is the world, and we get trained to. I mean, you did hypnosis, right? You're a hypnotist. We learn some of these patterns when we're kids, and we don't think we can break out of them. And so that's my mission, I guess, to help break
I
some of
love
these
that.
patterns. And I hope, some of my stuff is very philosophical, very academic. And I hope that, because I mean, I think there's two parts. You have to teach somebody, we all have to understand that we own our identity. And so that's philosophical. But then there's a very practical part of it as well, where we have to discover who we are and then make it real. We have to bring it into we have to bring it into
3D.
the world. Yeah. Yeah, it's gotta be. It
Yes.
can't just be thoughts in your head. It's gotta be real, and it's gotta be who you are. So that's what I do. That's my work. So I guess my point was gonna be, I hear you. You go to work and all you do is make money. It's not rewarding, not in the least. When you express who you are, that's very rewarding. And I don't even care what you're doing. Whatever you're doing, if you're expressing it deep down who you are, that's that's why you're here. That's why you're here. So thank you for the segue. That was a perfect intro to it.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to give you some more time for you to talk about your work in depth to our listeners.
Okay, sure. I ended up so there's a lot there are a few facets of it. So I did mention that I like the philosophical stuff. Ultimately, I developed a theory of identity and a theory of gender that we whenever you look at identity, if you just look up identity on the internet like you're going to, I think it would be kind of funny. I should look that up. I wonder what Google says. But, there have been philosophers thinking about this for a long time. Is it nature? Is it nurture? Even in Greek philosophy, we have, the rationalists, we have the empiricists, it's nature. No, it's nurture. And ultimately, as a scientist, what I learned was to answer a question, you have to observe. You can't just make a theory without observations. And I don't think the Greeks were doing that, but you have to observe. And if you come up with a theory that doesn't explain at least one person, it's the theory's fault. It's not the person's fault, because you just made a theory that was incomplete. That's all. Now you have to take this new data, work it into the theory. So I just started looking around. What do we have? And I was just asking some of the questions it was who am I kind of thing. One of the questions I ended up asking, because I'm thinking about, well, where does identity come from? Where could it come from? So I was thinking, what purple? Why do I like purple? I don't know. I've liked it since I was a kid. I've always liked purple. It was a crazy thing when all of a sudden, like I felt allowed to wear purple. And this was actually before I transitioned. But at some point I was like, oh my gosh, I could wear purple. Why can't I wear purple? So I started wearing it. But I asked him, why do I like purple? Why do I like purple? I don't know. But ever since I was a kid. And so I think that the only answer I have is just because. And I think all of us have knowledge. And I'm not talking about opinions. I'm not talking about likes. It's knowledge. I know purple is the best color, period. I know that.
I love it.
And I don't know why.
It
Or
is the
you have the
color of the
same.
crown
Usually
chakra. So it's,
right?
that's the significance there.
So there you go. But I mean, like I used to use, like when I would have these conversations, I would say, well, what's your favorite vegetable? I mean, I'll ask you, what is your favorite vegetable?
Oh my God. Right off the bat, probably broccoli.
No, wrong. It's asparagus. I mean, can I tell you that? You're giving me a look like, what? Right.
What? How do you know what I
It's one of
like?
the precisely. Precisely. How can I tell you what you like? You can't tell me what my favorite color should be. I can't tell you that you should like asparagus more, which by the way, broccoli is my favorite vegetable too.
Okay.
I just use asparagus because I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it. Because asparagus can get a little weird. I'm sorry, asparagus, but asparagus growers of America, I'm sorry. But anyway, point being, the point being that when we
Ah,
all have knowledge, that
laughing
if
so
somebody
much. I'm
says,
having
well,
too much time here. Oh my God.
good, who thought philosophy could be sort of wacky? But
No, I love philosophy. I love what they call it, theology, right? All those Eastern, Western
yeah,
philosophies, Carl Jung, Ellen Watts, you name them,
yes,
Taoism.
yes,
I live for
right.
those. So
I thought it would be useless. And then I started writing. And then I'm like, well, we have knowledge that we just can't explain. The answer is just because. Purple, why do I like purple? Just because. Why do you like broccoli? I mean, and you could probably say, oh, well, I like things, I'm making it up. I like things that are green. I like things that are cruciferous. Gosh, I'm really digging deep here. What else can you like about broccoli? I don't know, but things, all right? Whatever the things are. But at some point, somebody's going to go, well, why are cruciferous vegetables the best? You still just have to go just because. And I know everybody has one of those. And as a result, this is why I think we have come into this life with a set of knowledge. And it's not opinions, again, not opinions. It's knowledge. It's things we know are right and true. But we come into this life with that set of knowledge. I think that is a born this way kind of factor because we just know these things. And they're going to color our lives for the rest of, hopefully purple, but color your life for the rest of your life. But on top of that, so that's our individual part. That's a nature part. We inherit this somehow. When we come into this life, we've got it. I mean, of course, if you subscribe to transmigration, that we're like a soul that is eternal, that goes from body to body, this isn't tough to buy into because you're like, well, yeah, we had the experience from the last life. Well, of course, we're going to have some of that knowledge. Yeah,
remnants here.
totally. You don't throw that out so much in the Western society. Throw
No?
that here, they go, no, you
I
only
thought
have one and
they're
done.
being more
No, no,
open.
some. So I just say, we don't know where it comes from. But the thing is, neither does science. Like we have neurochemists who are like, oh, it's completely all in the brain. Our mind, our soul, it's all in the, who we are is all in the brain. And we go, oh my gosh, well, how does that work? And they go, we don't know. And you go, well,
You
wait a
just
minute.
have
How
to.
come? So what if the soul's like, yeah, I'm like this. So that's faith. You're asking me to, it's no different to my mind. I even had a conversation with somebody. It was in a podcast. I probably shouldn't have pursued it. But she's like a neurochemist type person, goes, oh, we know all about it. And we know that it's the brain is the seat of everything. And I said, oh, we do. She goes, yes. And I said, so it's all chemicals. She goes, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, this is how our memory's stored, how our thoughts. Well, we're still working on that. We don't really know. And I said, well, what if we just had I go, what if we just have like a soul that's outside your body? And she goes, that's not very scientific, is it? And I said, well, if you don't know and I don't know, like, what's the difference? And she goes, well, I have science. And I said, but you still don't know. And she didn't look very pleased. I was like, let's move on. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. So we have an origin of identity. Okay. So this is, we have this inside us. This is when we're born. But each of us as an individual have to coexist in a social environment. Social environment is the phrase I use. All right. It sounds kind of spiffy, but not really. Because a social environment just means there's like two or more people. I mean,
Yes.
that's pretty easy to attain. But like, because like when you're a kid, you can't, you don't get born and go, okay, I'm off. I'm gonna go live in the outback or
Do
something. You
my
don't do that when you're a
own
kid.
thing.
You can't. Yeah. Right. I'm going to build a shelter and everything. I'll learn language, whatever. I'll find some books. It's not a big deal. Can handle this, mom. You don't do that. We have to coexist in a society. And so what I believe, this is my theory of identity in particular, is that we have this set of knowledge, this origin of identity, as I've named it, but then we exist in a social environment. And in order to find the highest amount of safety for ourselves, we, I've called it a negotiation. I don't know if that's the best word, but we look at the social environment and try to express who we are. And if the social environment rejects it, then we have like a choice. We go, was that important? All right, then maybe I should keep trying to express it. But if it isn't, we just let it go. And so this is the ongoing negotiation. And it's really just for our own safety. It's so that we don't get beat up on the playground. We don't make mom mad. We don't get Uncle Lester, who comes to Thanksgiving. We don't get the nasty look from him, the side eye from Uncle Lester. It's an ongoing negotiation. I don't think gender is any different. Like right now, I'm wearing a skirt, and I've had people tell me I'm not allowed to wear a skirt because of my genotype, which is sort of interesting. Genotype meaning my complete genetics, the complete genetics in every single cell of my body. I'm not allowed to wear a skirt for that, apparently. That's a social norm. If you see somebody with like a big beard wearing a skirt, well, you have to ask one of two questions. One, are you in Scotland? Because I guess that,
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
could be, right? You have
Yes.
like guy with a big beard and a kilt.
Yeah.
But then there's also, is this social norm going to be acceptable? When I was a kid, I would have preferred to have worn feminine clothes, but my social environment didn't allow it. I knew that that was what I wanted to wear. I knew it, just like I knew about broccoli and purple, but my social environment didn't like it. So this is it. We have to discover this first of all, because you can't know if you like broccoli or purple unless you experience it. So we have to discover what we like, but we also have to develop it. When we discover this, when we discover who we are, how can we make it more who we are? And so this is a cycle, right? I mean, you don't have the origin of identity, and this is everything you know for the rest of your life. We have a bunch of experience, and as we have experience, it grows on top of everything that we were born with. And so that's our nurture part. I like to think of it as like a pearl. So you have the origin of identity that is a grain of sand, right? And a grain of sand gets into an oyster, and that process of putting stuff around the grain of sand is called accretion. I don't know why I like that word so much. Accretion,
Wow.
Accretion. Yeah, that's the process to make a pearl, accretion. And so
It's
I
from
think
a grain of
we're
sand.
born
Oh,
with
I
this
never
grain of
really looked
sand.
into this. Wow. I'm learning. I'm
Yeah.
learning as we.
So you have a grain. Yeah, good. So we're born as a grain of sand and we turn into these pearls. We accrete our identity to become the pearls that we are. Which sounds poetic. And I think just,
I love it.
that's how nature and nurture work together. And the thing is too, I mean, if you have a big pearl, I don't know how big pearls get. I'm holding like a basketball size here. There's still a grain of sand at the middle of it, in the middle of it. And if you broke the thing open, if you scraped it all down, you could presumably find the piece of sand. But what that means is that our origin of identity always continues to look out at the world through all of our experiences. And this is exactly what we find in all of psychology anyway. What we find in part of what powers how we do hypnosis. So I don't think
Yes.
I don't think it's a revolutionary theory. I'm amazed at the people who hear it and go, "Wow, I would never have thought of that." And I just think, well, it's pretty common sense. I don't know. I think it's a sort of a scientific way of looking at it. I think what we've done with a lot of human existence is kind of just go, like, let's just make something up. Let's just, I think Jung and Freud were working with clinical data, but I think both of them, had a very different viewpoint than the people they were studying. I mean, and for that matter, if you look at like the DSM, right, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, this is written by psychiatrists. These are people who don't have the conditions, right? They only know about these conditions because other people say, hey, I have this condition. And they go, oh, I'll write it down and make a new book of it, It's all physical, it's all genetics, or it's all society. And I don't think that could possibly be true. So that's all my work in a nutshell, in an oyster shell.
I love that. Thank you for that transparency. So if somebody is resonating with you right now and they said, "Oh, I think I need to reach out to
Yeah.
Amy," what can they how can they reach out to you, and yeah, what can you I would want to say
Thank
like
you.
what can you help them what can you help them with? But it's probably going to be very vast because you can talk about so many things, right? Because you're a scientist, you've transitioned, you can talk about spiritual stuff, you can talk about philosophies without, without
Well,
any
I mean, these are the
ending.
things.
And
I
you're a
mean, these are the things I talk
hypnotist,
about.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You're
Yeah.
you're a hypnotist.
So if you, I mean, first of all, how can people find me? I'll tell that. There's only one website that it's worth going to. It's purplepawclan.com. There's actually, so purple, of course, but well, hold on, hold on. Because there was a series of books called Warrior Cats. I
Warrior
told you some of
cats?
this stuff was silly. I think it's good. Yes, Warrior Cats. Did you ever hear it? It's Aaron Hunter is the author. It's like young adult, but in it there's a cat who, super briefly, the cat realizes there's got to be more to life. And he's living in a house, but he looks out at the forest and says, "Oh, I bet you I'll find something in the forest, right?" And at some point he meets the forest cats and they go, "No, you don't have what it takes. You weren't born a forest cat. You can't be a forest cat. Sorry. It's just how it works." And so the cat, his name is Rusty. So I'm going to start calling him Rusty. This Rusty, at some point he meets the leader of one of the forest cats clans, is what it was called. Anyway, she goes, "Oh, you think you can run with us forest cats?" And Rusty goes, "Oh yeah." And she goes, "Cool. Try to keep up." Turns and runs away. And so Rusty's facing this choice. All right. He's looking at them run away and he goes, "Oh, I'm out of here." And then he goes, "Wait a minute, hang on." Because I have like wet food. Like every 5 o'clock, every day at 5 o'clock, there's more food. It's warm inside. What do I
When am
could
I
live a
giving up?
life.
Yeah.
It's really just a tongue. Right. He goes, "I could live a life of relative safety." I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but it was a phenomenal. When I read it, I was like, "Oh my gosh." But he goes, "I could live a life of relative safety, never being who I am. Or I could throw myself out into the unknown, find who I am, and make that real and live the life that a cat like I am should live." And he goes, "Forget about safety. I got to know who I am." And he runs after them. And I don't know if if the transgender allegory that I'm trying to portray here is obvious, but every one of us in the transgender community, but I think every one of us, every human, has to do that at some point. Go, do I leave the safety of what I know? Do I leave the safety of the salary and whatever to find out who I am? Or do I stay here and never know? And I say, cast yourself into that unknown. The point here was going to be Rusty goes off. He becomes a forest cat, a clan cat. All of the cats in these clans can have one of four different names. When they're born, they have some name, and it would be suffixed with kit. So if Rusty had been born a clan cat, he would have been Fire Kit. When you're old enough to start training to become a soldier, you become a paw. So then he was Fire Paw. When you become a soldier, you have something else, and now I forget. He was Fire something. I wish I could remember. Sorry, but it has to do with your soldier type capabilities. And if you become a leader, you get the suffix heart. So he became Fire Heart. Hopefully, I'm not spoiling anything here, but Fire Heart. So Fire Kit, Fire Paw, Fire something, Fire Heart. So when I read this, I wrote a couple of articles. I said I would call myself Purple Paw because I'm just now thinking about all of this stuff. I'm just now becoming somebody who might become a soldier might become somebody who fights for the queer community. And who knows, maybe someday I can become a leader. Maybe I'd be thought of as Purple Heart. The Purple Paw stuck with me. And that's why everything is Purple Paw. And then obviously the clan bit was that's all of the cats in the forests live in things called clans. not a great word for the United States, and that's why I wanted to reclaim it. Because a clan is different from community. Community, you get like a few people together. You go, yeah, we have community. Yeah, we called ourselves the community. It's you just come by, you can have we'll have coffee or something. But a clan is something that you have an identity with. You want it to survive, and you're going to work to make it survive. It has negative connotations in the United States, and that's partly why I used it for Purple Paw Clan. But that's the story of that. So purplepawclan.com.
I love it.
What can I do? What I can do is my background in technology. I did a lot of getting high level business requirements, building teams, acquiring resources, building a top level plan, and then getting status on a regular basis. This is just what I did. Not because I was necessarily great at it, but just this is
Sounds
what you
like a
do as a
PMO.
manager. Is you plan projects. Yeah, it
Were
is.
you in
No, it
PMO?
totally
Oh my
is.
god. Me
Totally.
too.
I was not in the PMO, I guess. I don't know how to put that. I was always in engineering, but I
Right.
got to like VP level as VP level in engineering. And so that was just project management at the end of it. High level business requirements, develop a plan, get status. So that's what I started doing for other people. Cause I went from first estrogen patch to finished medical transition, including surgery in Thailand, as I mentioned, in just over 2 years, 2 years and 4 days. And I thought that was pretty slow. Like personally, I thought I could do the whole thing in about a year. But usually people take 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, because it's just a long process. And I don't think I did anything special. I sat down and I wrote a list, like you've probably done. And then you break that list down into smaller parts, and then you just start checking them off, right? I didn't do anything special. But when I realized that most people don't do that, I thought, oh, well, I'll offer this as a service. So what I do now is I talk with people, and it's literally get high level business requirements. What do you want to change in your life? Right? What are we going to change? What does the future look like? And then we can set up a plan. Hypnosis entered into it relatively recently, but I had noticed there were several people who they had obstacles, but they didn't relate to anything obvious. I think I'll say that. Like I had somebody who said, "Oh yeah, I really want to work on this, but I don't work on it." And I was like, "Well, why would you not? Because doesn't that enable you to do a bunch of other things?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, but I just don't." And so, I mean, I'm looking at the look on your face. That's where hypnosis can come in, because it's like, well, I guess I don't care why. Can we get past the obstacle? Can we address whatever the behavior is? And that's where hypnosis is great, mitigating behavior so that we can change patterns that are dysfunctional. There you go. So I added that in. So now I've got high level project plan, or like a
I
project
love
plan,
it.
including status meetings. And if there's something that we have to work past, that's where hypnosis comes in. So that's really what I do. That's my job. But I do still make content, podcasts, writing, videos, did a live stream earlier this evening. So,
Oh my god.
that's it.
You have been so wonderful. Amy, I mean, I've taken so much of your
Thank
time. It's
you.
supposed to be 45 minutes. Few more questions before I can let you go. Many people struggle with feelings of inadequacy despite their achievements. I know we talk about this. What advice would you give to someone experiencing imposter syndrome in a high pressure environment?
Oh my gosh. I have a friend who observed something once. I mean, this was relatively recently, last couple of years, but she said, I admire how you always do things. You're always doing things. And I said, oh my gosh, that's not true. I have no self confidence. I don't know. I don't believe I can do any of the things that I do. And she said, well, isn't confidence not saying you have the ability to do something, but actually going out and doing it? I mean, confidence isn't something that's static, right? Confidence is in the doing. You don't just go, "Oh, I'm confident I can do that." You really have to do it. And I didn't think of it that way. That changed that was an unlearning moment actually, where I went, "Gosh, so I just keep doing, and that makes me confident. You aren't confident in order to do, you do, and then you demonstrate confidence. So that's what I wanted to say. What would I say to somebody? If you're doing things, well, look at you. You are confident. You are doing this. The important point is that you're doing anything. I struggle a lot, and I feel you said this as well. I struggle a lot with low self-worth. That I think everything I do is not very interesting, not very valuable. No, it's not worth anything. And I struggle with that, which was terrible when I was negotiating for salary. Right. It was the worst. It was the worst characteristic to
Yes.
have.
Yes. Yes.
So it was awful. But
I could relate.
the thing is, people
100%.
hired me because I did. Yes, I thought so. Okay. But I still got hired. People wanted me to do the work. And so I think that's where I would say, if people are trusting you, if people like what you do, it kind of I understand it's difficult to believe it sometimes. And this is a place where external validation is maybe not a bad thing. Even if I don't believe that what I did was great, I can look to other people who go, you know what, thanks, that really helped. It's fascinating how many people we touch every day that we don't even know. I have videos on YouTube that have 6 or 7 thousand views. I don't recall exactly. It's not that important. Well, here's a better one. Actually, I just put out a video on TikTok, right? 12,000 views. And I'm like, oh my gosh, 12, who the hell's watching this? I don't know, but 12,000 people. So I don't know how many of those 12,000 I've touched. Maybe only 10. It doesn't make a difference. But 12,000, you look at those numbers and you go, that's nobody, right? It's 12,000 versus 8 billion. Who cares? But if you touch one person, it keeps going
Yes.
and going. It'll touch the next generation. It'll touch the people that person touches. So yeah, that's the way I've had to think about it. Long-winded answer. Sorry,
I love
everything
that.
is
No,
when you're talking to
I
me.
I just want to echo that with even though yeah, I always think, especially when I started my podcast, 8 billion people, who's gonna listen to me? At least if there's just, not even a fraction, like a if the message that I'm putting out there has touched one person, I made them feel better than when they first listen, when they never listen to any of my podcasts. That means I've started the ripple
Yeah.
effect. So that I
Yes.
have to admit, sometimes I
Yes.
do feel tired. Of course, I mean the post production of the editing of an episode is not an easy feat, but I still believe in the
No.
in the in the work, because I know we sleep better. At least I sleep better. Being an act of serving people than 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 taking. So
Yeah. Yes.
yeah,
I agree.
thank you, Amy. So what is your heart's greatest wish?
Gosh, I had an answer that came to me so immediately. It must be true. My heart's greatest wish is that someday people will care more about actions than looks, quality, as opposed to wealth. Trying to make this even sound kind of poetic, and I think I kind of lost. I don't have a third thing. I wanted a third thing, but I hope that the people start to realize that humans are inherently valuable. We're not the value of the work that we do. We're not the value of the money in our bank account. We're valuable because we are. And each of us contributes to the history of this planet and the future of this planet, and obviously the present. So I hope that's my heart's greatest wish. I got to tell you, I was thinking it was going to be something a bit less vaunted sounding.
Well,
I was thinking I was going to say,
there's another question. You still have a chance.
okay,
If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, Dr. Amethysta Herrick, what would it be?
this one I actually have sort of prepared. Because my quote would go like this: Your identity is yours. Society has no claim over you. And as a result, our greatest moral obligation as humans is to look inside and to find who we are and manifest that to make it real. Because that's what we do as humans. It's a little longer of a quote. I wish I could be some like knowledge is power, but I've got 3 sentences. That's it. That's my whole work in a nutshell.
Brilliant. All right. Before we wrap this interview up, Amy, any last messages for our listeners?
My gosh, the only thing that I think I would want to put out there, first of all, I mean, I want to say thank you, Nicolette, for everything that you're doing, because clearly you're hearing the message that I'm hearing from the universe. I mean, I think that's important. You find the right people, and I think you find the right people, and your life gets better. And so I would say this much: I think I've found one of the right people in you, and my last message is everybody out there, go find your people,
And your
listen to the
tribe.
message of the universe. Yes.
Yeah.
And your tribe, your clan.
Your clan. Well, that is a truly inspiring episode from Dr. Amethysta Herrick. Amy, I'd like to say thank you for the work that you do, for
Thank
showing
you.
up, for showing out, and for paving the way from Paul. And I can already see you're
Thank you.
the leader. So it's the heart is already there. I just want to say thank you for being such an inspiration to me and to all of our listeners. So for
Thank
our
you.
listeners,
Thank
you're
you.
very welcome.
That's beautiful.
For our listeners, this has been your Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. And if you've ever felt worthless, remember you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again and to all of you for listening. Until next time, I am Nick Nieras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Thank you, Amy, for your time. Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to @holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.denigneraswholisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path. And if you're also wanting to check on your energetic alignment, I have done that too. And I offer that kind of services. So, my question to you is, are you ready? Because I am. Let's make your list. Good evening to you, Dr. Amethysta Herrick. How are you doing today?
I am doing amazingly. How about you?
I'm doing very, very well. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. There's so many things that I want to ask, obviously, but I'd like to introduce myself to you formally first and to all of our listeners tuning in for the first time and our returning subscribers. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless, full stop. Read that again, full stop. The juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, today we have Dr. Amethysta Herrick here with us. So I'd love to read a bit of your introduction for our listeners first, and then we can get right into our juicy stuff, which is the discussion.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So hello, everyone. We have Dr. Amethysta Herrick here with us. She's a scientist, storyteller, and professional overthinker of all things identity. Also, she happens to be a transgender woman. Amy's work dives deep into the origin and nature of identity, particularly gender, because, let's be honest, figuring out who we are is a lifelong process, and she made it hers. Through her writing, podcasts, and videos, Amy explores these topics freely on the Purple Paw blog, the website she founded, so we can actually have these conversations with someone without someone shouting into the void, or worse, Twitter. Identity isn't just a queer thing, it's a human thing. Every single person at some point asks, who am I? Yes, I did that. And why does all this feel like an existential roller coaster? Now, her mission is to show that gender and identity exploration aren't just fringe ideas, they're fundamental human experiences. Well, welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. I
Yay!
think this is going to be fun.
I think so
Should be
too.
awesome.